Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good day to everyone. We from Group 10 will present to you about the Islamic point of view on the LGBTQ. This is our group members. We consist of me myself, Jafni Shazrina bin Muhammad Nazrin, Shazrina Husna binti Azizul Farid, Anie Fatimah binti Azhar, Diandrei Azakariantama Hamdani, and also Yasmin Suhaila binti Rozhan. Later on, we will introduce ourselves in more details in this presentation. In this presentation, there is 5 chapters that we will touch. The first one is the introduction, followed by the literature review, the research methodology, the finding and data analysis, and also the last one is the conclusion for our study. Before I proceed with the first chapter for our presentation, let me introduce myself again. My name is Jafni Shazani bin Muhammad Nazrin, student ID 2100201, and from the Civil Engineering course. In our introduction, this is the background of our study. So what is LGBTQ? LGBTQ is the acronym for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and also queer, which also known as questioning. So what is lesbian? Lesbian is a term that is used to describe a woman that have desire and attractiveness with another woman. On the other hand, gay is the term that is used to describe a man that have emotional affections for others of the same sex, which is also a man. Bisexual is for a person that have physical, romantic, or emotional attachment to both same and opposite gender. For transgender is for people whose gender identity are different from the gender they thought to be births. And the last one, Q, for queer, also known as questioning, is the term that is used to define sexual and gender identities that are not straight or cisgender. In Malaysia, we do not recognize the practice and act of LGBTQ and also the existence of its community. The LGBTQ is strictly prohibited by the Muslims, which makes 63.5% of Malaysia's population in our country. However, this does not mean that Islam negates and rejects the right of the LGBT community itself as a human being in our country. For the problem statement, the Muslim prohibit the act and practice of LGBTQ from happen, as what I said earlier. However, this does not mean that the community of LGBTQ is hated and should be discriminated by anyone, specifically the Muslims. Hence, to clearly see on how the LGBTQ is viewed from the perspective of Muslim, especially in our country, Malaysia, the view of Islam on LGBTQ is explained in this research. This is our research objective. Our research is done for us to discuss the LGBTQ from Islamic law and perspective, to examine the society's understanding on Islamic point of view toward the LGBTQ, and also for us to examine how Muslims should behave towards the LGBTQ without causing any controversy or problems. The significance of our study is for us to clear up the society's misunderstanding of Islamic law on the LGBTQ. And this study is also important for us to expose to the society about how LGBTQ issue is viewed from our Islamic perspective. And the last one is for us to enhance the society knowledge and understanding toward the Islamic law on LGBTQ. We will move on to the next chapter, which is the literature review. I will pass the floor to the next presenter.
Okay, hello everyone. So we have come into the second chapter of this presentation, and it is called literature review. So in this section, I'm going to explain to you one of the article that I have read, which is Islamic Law Perspective on LGBT Behavior, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. The author of it is H.M. Umar from UI and Sultan Taha Shaikuddin Jambi. So in his article, he's explaining it into 3 main topics. The first topic is the terms of sexuality on society. So in this topic, I'm already highlighted into 2 main points. The first one, sexuality is mean here has a broad meaning. So it's namely as an aspect of life that covers the whole concept of sex, gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity, sexual identity, eroticism, pleasure, intimacy, and reproduction. The second part is sexuality in the flow of essentialism, belief that sexuality is external and cannot be changed and generally accepted in society because it gains legitimacy both from religious and cultural things. So the second topic is about discussion of humans and their fitra. So as we know, humans are connected with sexuality, and it is a biological need and natural thing that cannot be avoided as long as normal. God only existed male and female sexes in this world, and there are no other genders beside of it. So in this modern world, we have seen that a lot of people declare themselves other from these two sexes. Even in Thailand, for example, they have like 16 genders. And the third point is Islam views marriage as an institution that can anticipate the occurrence of deviant sexual behavior. Even though it is clear that existence of sex for human is a natural thing, what appears in sexuality is a wave of abnormality in human sexuality. And the last part is about Quran Ishara about LGBT behavior. So Islam acknowledges the practice of same-sex sexuality by calling it liwat. And also Islam acknowledged LGBT in the Prophet Lut's story about Saddam community. So in this article on this topic actually, it's explained about a lot of this story, the Prophet Lut story. So maybe I'm just gonna put it as a point over there. And then the third part is sexual relations that are not carried out with partners who are not permitted to have legal consequence also have an adverse impact on the soul, mind, and heart. And the behavior of LGBT are also mentioned in some verse in Quran, which is Surah An-Najm verse 45, An-Nur verse 30 to 31, Al-Mu'minun 5 to 6, and etc. So this mainly talks about the Saddam community of Prophet Lut story, and then someone will also explain about the comment to the transgender because we can't change our sexual thing, and someone will also explain about the relationship or maybe the story of the same-sex relationship is like lesbian and gay. Last point, which is the interesting point that I found, is there is something that is less than perfect. It is a natural thing, but that does not mean running away from the imperfection, because human beings are one of the most perfect creation that God already created. So we don't need to regret about it. We don't need to change about it. So we just accept and be grateful for it. So we need to take care of it actually. So this is the end of my explanation, and the next topic is gonna be explained by my friends.
My name is Anie Fatimah, student ID 210000495 from Materials Engineering. For Literature Review 2.2, which is Islamic Perspective on LGBTQ Behavior. Marriage in Islam is a relationship that may eliminate human sexual impulses. In the homosexuals and lesbianism pattern, sexual relations are carried out based on preferences for the same sex. Such a relationship is also classified as strange and abnormal in terms of biology. Islam acknowledges the practice of same-sex sexuality by calling it liwat, which is an unusual sexuality practice and cannot be understood by normal human reason. From Ibn Abbas that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah SWT cursed those who did the deeds of the people of Prophet Lut. Allah cursed those who did the deeds of the people of Prophet Lut. Allah cursed those who did the deeds of the people of Prophet Lut. Allah repeated those lines 3 times. Thus, there is no doubt that in Islam, the position of homosexuals or lesbianism is not tolerated under any circumstances.
Hello, my name is Yasmin Suhaila binti Rozhan. My student ID is 220000144 and I'm taking civil engineering. Today I will be presenting the third literature review, that is Relations of LGBTQ Acceptance and Their Mental Health. The LGBT community in Malaysia has been treated harshly by the society This is because of them being gay, lesbian, or anything related to it. This causes them to be in a really bad mental state such as anxiety, depression, suicidal, and many other mental health issues. The Muslims that don't know much about Islam itself thought that the LGBT community deserved the bad treatment that they have been receiving. But Islam thought its believers to not hate on people who make sins and just hate on the actions, hence not to treat the LGBT community harshly. In another way, the LGBT community should also respect the Muslim community's religion, which is Islam. Islam prohibits its believers to do any acts that are related to LGBT. With both of the communities understanding and treating each other with respect, the world will be in peace.
Moving on to the next literature review, which is the prohibition of LGBTQ under the Federal Constitution and Islamic law. The Federal Constitution is the supreme law of Federation of Malaysia. Under Article 4.1 in the Constitution itself, it states that any law that conflicts with the Federal Constitution itself is considered invalid. The Section 377A of the Penal Code in the Federal Constitution, it is related to any matter of current intercourse against the law of nature, and by this, LGBTQ can be classified under this provision. It states that anyone who engages in sexual activities with persons by inserting the penis into the other person's anus or mouth is considered to have violated the natural order of things. They can be punished to face up to 20 years in prison and subjected to whipping. On the other hand, in the Islamic law, the prohibition of LGBTQ is clearly stated under the Sharia Criminal Offence Selangor Enactment 1955 Part 4. This Sharia Criminal Offence Selangor Enactment 1955 Part 4 is related to the decency. In this enactment, any males who violate Section 30 of the enactment by dressing like such a woman or impersonating a woman for immoral purpose in any public places is guilty of an offence. They can be fined up to Rm1,000 and imprisonment up to 6 months. Therefore, we can say that in Malaysia, anyone that claims to be in the LGBT community still have a civil right same as every Malaysian citizens and free to live freely in our country. Under Article 8.1 in the Federal Constitution, it says that all persons are equal before the law and entitled to equal protection under the law. And also in Article 8.2, it says that discrimination against individuals solely on the basis of their race, religion, ancestry, or gender is prohibited in any law or administration of any law relating to acquisitions, possessions, or the establishment or exercise of any business, professions, or work. It says that all the LGBTQ who live in Malaysia is clearly have a civil right same as all Malaysian citizens. However, since the act of LGBTQ itself is forbidden under the Federal Constitution and also prohibited under the Islamic law, they can be caught and brought to the court and be summoned as the law forbids it.
So I will continue with the literature review 2.5, which is LGBTQ right activisms and contestarian in the Arab world. So this article looks at the relationship between emerging LGBTQ groups and the Arab state during the last decade. Tunisia's attack on LGBTQ rights has stepped up in the recent years. Despite a spike in the number of newly founded civil society groups in the nation during the Arab Spring, many of which publicly campaigned for sexual and physical rights. Despite substantial legislative progress for LGBTQ rights in Lebanon, Tunisia government has continued its repressions of LGBTQ. The Arab Spring saw significant progress has continued. The country has seen a rise in Tunisia and gay rights groups since 2011, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Using strategic litigations and leverage politics to combat criminalizations. In the previous sections, I argue that democracy alone is insufficient to explain when we see legal advances for LGBTQ rights, and that in order to understand divergent outcomes, we must consider the agency of collective actors, activities, and movements, and how they influence their political and legal environments. At the turn of the millennium, the number of states with such laws stood at
2013 until the Supreme Court concluded in Lawrence, Texas 2003 that the homosexual male couple in this case were entitled to respect in their private life, effectively abolishing anti-sodomy legislations in all remaining states.
Next is research methodology. We use two research methodology, which is survey and library research. For survey, we have conducted a survey using Microsoft Form. We distributed the form to our targeted respondents that are students from any IPTs in Malaysia. The questions are focused on how far the students' knowledges, opinions, and understandings of Islam's POV towards LGBT are. The quantity and percentages of the response are turned into pie chart to make data analysis easier. For library research, we have collected data and information that are related to our assignment topic. Any journals, articles, books, or theses are used to do this research. A few articles are chosen based on the relevance and relations with our assignment. Literature reviews are made by us based on the articles that have been chosen. That's all from me. Thank you.
Chapter 4, Data and Finding Analysis. For section A, which is the demographic section, for the age of respondents, most respondents are 19 years old. For the gender of respondents, 16 out of the 31 respondents are male, while the remainder 17 are female. For the race of the respondents, mostly are Malays, which are 22 respondents, while other respondents are Chinese, Indians, and there are 2 of other races. For the nationality of the respondents, all respondents are Malaysian. And lastly, for the religion of the respondents, most of the respondents are Muslim, making up for 24 respondents out of 31, and 4 other respondents are Christians, Hindu, Buddha, and atheists. For the section B findings, which is the yes or no questions, the first question is, do you agree that LGBT has been around a lot lately? Mostly answered yes, which means that most of the respondents are aware of the increasing population of LGBTQ community around them. Next, the question is, do you know how Islam view LGBT? Mostly answered yes. This is because most of the respondents are Malays and Muslim, thus they have a basic understanding about Islamic law and LGBTQ. But there are some who answered no and maybe, which shows that not all respondents know about Islamic views on LGBTQ. For question 3, do you agree that the conflicts between LGBT and Muslims are caused by lack of knowledge from both sides? Most respondents answer yes, which means they agree that lack of knowledge from both Islamic and LGBTQ community are the main factor for most of the disputes happen, while many also are unsure for the reason as they answered maybe and no. For the next question, are you interested to learn more about how Islam view LGBTQ? We discovered that most respondents are interested to know and learn more about Islamic law on LGBTQ. Next, do you think that everyone should know how Islam view LGBT so that misunderstandings can be avoided? Most think that everyone should have basic knowledge on Islamic law on LGBTQ. For the next question, do you think both Muslims and non-Muslims should have knowledge on Islamic's point of view towards LGBTQ? Most think that non-Muslims should also have knowledge about Islamic's view on LGBTQ. Next, do you think that non-Muslims have rights to practice LGBT? Most answered no, because most of them doesn't support the LGBTQ movement, no matter if it's practiced by either Muslims or non-Muslims. And lastly, do you know that most Muslim countries carry out heavy punishments on Muslims who practice LGBTQ? Most answered yes, meaning that they have the knowledge about the punishments on LGBTQ in most Muslim countries like Iran, Sudan, and Pakistan, whom have the death penalty as the conviction on Muslims LGBTQ.
Moving on to the next section in our questionnaire, which is multiple choice section. So most of the respondents don't like LGBT, which is 20 out of 31 respondents, and then most of the respondents, which is 22 out of 31, support the prohibition of LGBT from Muslims. Then most of the respondents believe that Muslims should follow their Islamic laws obediently, I believe this is because most of the population of Malaysian and also most of our respondents are from Muslim. So they believe that all Muslims should obey the Islamic law. Next, moving on to the next question in our multiple choice. According to Islamic law, Muslims who committed same-sexual relationship should be punished by an appropriate punishment. What is your reaction to it? And based on this question, 22 out of 31 respondents support this sentence as they believe that the Muslims who committed LGBTQ action should be punished by an appropriate punishment. Then the next question, most of the respondents, which is 11 out of 31 respondents, believe that Muslims should respect the LGBT community as a human being. However, there are some respondents that don't like these things. Next, should LGBT community respect Muslim Islamic law and prohibition of same-sex relationship? Big amount of respondents believe and support this statement because 24 out of 31 answer by I support it in this section. They believe that the LGBT community should respect the Muslims law on the prohibition of the LGBTQ action. The last question, there are a lot of cases on harassment and hateful remarks to LGBTQ community. What is your reaction on it? 17 out of 31, which is the big amount, which the most answer from the respondent, don't like the harassment and hateful remarks to the LGBTQ community. Now move on to the next chapter.
For conclusion, it is hoped that the discovery of Islamic point of view on LGBTQ was dispelled any misconception among academics and practitioners of Muslim LGBT community. All of the hadith stated regarding the prohibitions of such acts should be communicated and disseminated in order to prevent it becoming more popular, particularly among Muslims. The study confirmed that it is always important and crucial as the second source of Islamic law after the Quran in prohibiting LGBT. Recommendation for future research. For this research may compare, for example, randomly interviewing individuals in public or holding the debate tournament regarding LGBTQ from an Islamic perception. More methodology work on how to collect additional viewpoint on this issue, and it will also be beneficial to qualitatively capture the experience and viewpoint of the public. Limitations is our idea of Islamic perspective on LGBTQ research in particularly was not positive because the number of respondents to the survey was limited, and so the judgment that could be met was also less precise. This is also assist group member in gathering as much information as possible in order to make an individual view of knowledge and understanding. As a result, we have fewer data on outcomes for respective of research partner, and we must be aware of possible selections bias toward more engaged research partner. Such a bias might have an impact on our plan. That's all from us. Thank you.